Hi, and welcome to another edition of Influence Today with Terry Lyles and Chet Tart, and it's things that influence you. Hey, Terry, how you doing? Welcome back.
Great, Chet. Good to be here again, always.
Good. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about a new book that's coming out that you wrote. You took time to write another book, and I got to tell you, first of all, I compliment you for doing that because that is an undertaking that's that takes a lot of time,
A lot.
obedience, and discipline, right?
It does. It
But
does.
it must have been something bubbling up that you said, I got to get this on paper. I got to get this on paper. The name of the book is Becoming Invaluable. It
Mm.
sounds incredibly powerful, that title itself. Let me ask you, where'd that title come from? How did it come together?
This is how my books usually come, is I coach people on a regular basis as you do, and I end up seemingly saying the same things over and over and over again. And I finally go, if I say it that much, I probably should expound upon it, because if I'm saying it that much, there's a need to talk more about it. So invaluable, if you separate the word in, and then val, val, and then you, and then able. So if you split it up in four, invaluable, the whole concept was inverted. You are able to have value. And val word literally means health, strength, and worth. Three things: health, strength, and worth, or in other words, self-worth. That's how you create self-worth. So the whole beginning intro and first chapter is about how do you put a roadmap together to become invaluable? Because all of us have value, but how do you become that person with, as I say, je ne sais quoi? There's something about it that I may not be able to put my finger on, but that person's just different. They're special. They're elite. There's something in their training. There's something in their protocol, with whether that's health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, nutritional health. There's elements there. So the book goes through a building block process of a triangle that is built on health, strength, and worth. And the top of the triangle is worth. So if your health is taken care of and you have strength in your health, you do two things to get up that triangle. So I create words in books because you can. When you publish it, it's a copyright. I make up at least one word in a book. This is my fifth book. So I co-wrote this one with a friend of mine, a business partner of mine, Steve Bowen. And he's been a very successful businessman. And he's done a lot of coaching and training in his life and just sold his company and is semi-retiring. And him and I said, I said to him one day, hey, Steve, you want to write a book? He's like, no. And he calls me back in 10 minutes. He goes, yes. So that's how that was about a year ago. So we've gone through this, but we created two words. Everyone needs the willitude, which willitude, and the negotiation skills to create healthy self-worth. So you can have wills, I have a will in my life. I want to do this. I have the willingness, but do I have the right attitude? Because I could have the willingness to be great, but no one wants to be around me. I'm not coachable because I think I'm better than everybody else, as an example. So I need the willingness, but I also need the right attitude. Okay, so willitude. And the other one is negotiate. There's times when I navigate situations and I negotiate with people. Then there's times I negotiate with people and I navigate circumstances. So we created this system of a triangle, which is the whole book, locked out in like 10 chapters, of how do you have the invaluableness of who we can be? How do you pull it out of someone? How do you pull it out of yourself to gain health, strength, and worth by understanding willitude and negotiation skills to get there?
That's powerful. You did say something in the beginning about repeating the same message, consistency over and over again.
Yes.
So I get this book and I'm reading it. What would your suggestion be for somebody? Let's talk about attitude, is to stay focused on it. Most of us do need an accountability partner, a truth teller, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of wrote this book as a written, and it will be verbal as well in Spanish and English, as a written and verbal coach. However, you need accountability with it. And so coaching comes in two phases, in my opinion. Coaching is information and didactics that you can put into your life. Accountability is someone with whom you do it with. They're the ones, like, you hire a coach. That means you paid money. You're going to be there. You're not just going to spend money and not show up in most cases. So coaching is one thing. So a book, audio tapes, podcasts like this can coach us. The question is, are you going to do it? See, we all know what to do. In most cases, most of us know how to eat. We know how to exercise. We know how to sleep. We know what to do. We just don't do what we know. That's where accountability comes in. Coaching is the information. And then on the other side of that, coaching parlayed with is accountability, that I will put into practice what I learned. So our book is really fashioned on those two aspects, coaching and accountability to the information we're sharing.
Well, I think coaching is incredibly important because you're in an environment, and if you don't change that environment, you're never going to get better at anything you're talking about here. And that's why I probably repeat the same thing over and over again. The same with our nutrition, because of all the bombardment of ads we get, and we're with people. I mean, just think of Labor Day weekend, people are doing hot dogs and hamburgers, and you're in that environment, and sometimes you don't have a choice. So I think what you're saying, and I believe what you're saying, is that I got to believe that I'm going to get better, but I also got to believe that I need you to make sure that I'm on track, because we all fall off track.
Well,
it's the environment.
Of course. And you know what? No one is perfect. You know, we all go through cycles of, I worked out more last year than I did this year, or I ate better last month than I did this month. I mean, there's a lot of that variation. That's called life. You know, we have bumpers and guides, you know, that we bump around. And I just want to stay as healthy as I can and as focused as I can. But it doesn't mean I'm 100% every day. No one can be. That's like driving your car with an accelerator and no brake pedal. I mean, at some point, you got to slow down. You got to recover. And we've talked about this on other podcasts. So it's very important to know where the brake and accelerator pedals are, that you can steer the wheel correctly and keep it off the curbs and trees and other cars. So we need all three of those devices to navigate a car. And I think it's really important as we
detected at the front door.
Oh, that's
Go ahead.
I heard something. I didn't know what it was. So what I think, I had to negotiate that for a second because it distracted me for a second, Chet.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
It's not good. No, this is how real life works, though, right? You go like this, and you're like, oh, somebody just called. What do you want? You know, I'm in the middle of a podcast. So this is how we negotiate things. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important when we look at, where am I? What am I trying to achieve? And so I constantly say to people, look, if I give you a script, not for medication, but a prescription to do something to help yourself, whatever that could be, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you could take that script and put it in a drawer and never fulfill it and never ingest it. Or you can take that script, have it fulfilled, which is the accountability, and ingest it, which is the willingness and that willitude to actually do it, and your life will change. So it's not just enough to know what to do or have a script to change your life. You actually have to do what the script says. And that's what we're trying to put in this book is, here's prescriptions for you and me, but how do we take it on a healthy dosage basis, good, better, best, wherever you are in your life. And if you can improve 1, 2, or 3%, that's a big change in most people's lives. You don't need 10, 20, 40% change. 1% in 5 areas or 3 areas of your life multiplied out is a huge bump in performance.
We're talking to Terry Lyles about his new book called Becoming Invaluable, which is powerful. The 3 elements: health, strength, and worth. I think I understand health and worth. Tell me how strength fills this void here that you're talking about in the triangle.
Yeah, well, strength is probably one of the most misunderstood things, because sometimes we think of strength as just being strong. And it's a derivative, but there's a missing element only to that philosophy, because strength also needs flexibility to be strong. Okay, so flexibility is a missing link. So when I train professional athletes and even corporate athletes, I work on 3 things, and we just touched on them right then. And you have to have health, obviously, strength to create this worth, but you also need flexibility, because strength without flexibility is potential injury. things break. I'm so strong, I'm muscle bound, and I can lift and I can run and I can, but if you're not flexible, you could get injured. So most athletes don't work enough on flexibility. They work all on strength and mechanical training. And they kind of just foo the whole thing of flexibility. I don't need to stretch. I don't like to stretch. It's kind of a waste of time. Well, how mentally flexible can you be, Chet and me? How emotionally flexible can you be? How spiritually flexible can you be? And then how physically flexible can you be? So if you can exercise those four capacities, you become just more flexible in your life. Like you and I could have spiritual differences. We don't, I don't think, but if we did, that's okay. My flexibility has to say, look, you believe how you want to believe. I'll tell you what I believe. You make your choices. I make my choices. You know, so that's flexibility. I have to let you be you. Mentally flexible. You had a better idea than I did. Nope. No, it was really my idea. I had it first. That's rigidity. That's breakage. Emotional flexibility. I can't let things go. I get upset. I get angry. I stay that way for a day, a week, a month, maybe a lifetime. That's rigidity. It breaks. Physical, we know we have a better understanding of the physical because it's so prevalent in our career and our lives. So just think of, so the strength aspect has to involve flexibility. So I write about that in here too and go into great detail on the power of flexibility to not just be strong, but to have strength, to negotiate through situations healthily.
That's powerful. And that's deep too. I mean, never considered strength like that, flexibility, and also how it builds strength. And you're right. If you look at muscles,
yes,
that work out all the time, it does get very, very tight. And
yes,
stretching out helps that so you get even stronger, correct?
that's correct.
Is the roadmap to go all the way down this roadmap so that you feel self-confident in yourself rather than believing the environment or what people say? Is that the end of this roadmap when you say worth?
It is. Yeah, because it's self-worth. But when you think of worth, it implies currency, right? What's your net worth? You know, they said that means how much money or wealth do you have, right? Net worth. Everybody talks about your net worth. Well, what is your relational worth in your marriage, with your children, with your grandchildren? You know, what is your mental worth as you impact with other people, and your physical worth and your spiritual worth? How much are you worth spiritually to people that you interact with every day? You know, how emotionally is your worth to people that we talk to and coach and lead and train every day? So this whole thing of worth is really, really interesting. So that's the apex, is what is your overall, not just self-worth, but your worth denomination in all aspects of your life. And what does it add up to be? I know people that are very rich and they're miserable. I know people that are broke and they're happy and they enjoy life every day. And they're just looking to make it the next few bucks so they can keep doing what they do because they love it. If you have both of those, you created a perfect storm resolution.
Isn't that mindset? Isn't that a lot have to do with mindset?
Yeah, we have a whole section on just the mental aspect of what it takes to believe that you deserve what it is that you're visualizing to put into your life in practicality. I have a young son who plays tennis at a pretty high level, and we talk about this all the time. You know, he said something one day, and he says, "Well, I don't know. At times I feel like I just don't deserve it." So we have this conversation where I'm like,
Wow.
"Deserve what?
Where'd
What do
that
you
come
mean?"
from?
Well, you know, just doubt. You know, he plays a 16-year-old kid. He's 10. And he got beat up by him, but he's supposed to. The guy is like 6 times, you know, levels higher than him and his tennis acumen. So we have to be really careful because life beats us down every day. And so many of us don't feel like we're worthy of things. We don't feel like we deserve things because we're like, well, that could never happen to me. I could say this 100 ways and people go like, well, I say that to myself every day. My self-talk is like, well, that'll never happen to me. Or, well, it always rains on a great day and, you know, it never ends. You know, it's a blah, 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 blah. And you hear all these things. You're like, wow, that's worth. You are broke or you're bankrupt in your worth account, your overall self human existence worth. How do you increase that? It starts with a mindset, starts with emotional acuity. It starts with a belief system, which is spiritual that you can, and the physicality that you're going to do the things you jot down every day to do. I got to make these calls. I do this podcast. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. I got to come home. You got to have a plan. So the whole book of Becoming Invaluable is a roadmap and a plan. You can follow as much or as little as you want. If you do any of it, it's going to help you get to the next level. And that's the beauty. We try to write it simplistically. And we have, I think we did 9 overall interviews with very interesting, powerful people that became invaluable. And those interviews became revelatory, chapter by chapter by chapter, of how did that musician get there? How did that entrepreneur make hundreds of millions of dollars? How did that person go to Broadway? How did that person climb Mount McKinley and survive and thrive? And we just went through a list, and it really is empowering in the book because we broke down normal people and they shared their stories of how they started and how they got to where they were. And then we embellish upon it on the didactics and the tactics and the strategy of the book to help other people like you and I do the same thing.
I have one last question before we leave, Terry. How did the interview and writing that book change you?
Every time I write something, it changes me. It's very cathartic because you really have to dig through yourself. And I'll be writing and talking and interviewing, and I'm going like, I used to do that more than I do now for whatever reason. I'll be like, wow, I need to do more of that, whatever that is. I need to be more aware of that. I need a brighter light on my life that I can see things that I'm not seeing because there's shadow around all of us, right? That's shadow self and best self is what I call it. So our best self is who we are at our very best. Our shadow self is the negative side. It's like the sun and the moon. That's why it gets dark at night. You need light to eliminate the darkness. So every book I've ever written takes me through a journey. And my son passed away last year, and it was really cathartic for me to write about his worth, value. And he was so incredibly vested in his life, and he never spoke a word, never walked, never did anything, was in a wheelchair for 38 years of his life. We served him his whole life, and other people served him. But the worth he gave to everybody he impacted is incredible. Incredible. He would smile at people, and they would just come up and start talking to him and loving on him, and he couldn't say anything. He would just smile at him. A smile. Dude, this is not rocket science. It's just knowing that we can have our worth and that worth impacts others. So it was my journey of going and reflecting on how much my son built my worth in so many different capacities that has changed me forever. So the book just kind of expresses some of that for me.
Thank you, Terry, for sharing that. I can't wait till the book comes out, and I look forward to maybe talking about another chapter in our next Influence Today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
And if they want to pre-order the book or get in touch with you, what do they need to do?
They can email through my website at terrylyles.com, and we should have it out in the next 30 days. The website's being built for Becoming Invaluable. It's not uplinked yet, but it will be very soon. And but they can be redirected from my website directly to the book website, and that's very easily done. The book's going to be on my website as well, so we'll get that out, and we'll talk more about that linkage when we get it up. But yeah, just terrylyles.com, and then look forward to getting impact out of this book as well as I have on the others. And it's really cool to hear people's stories as they read and interact. And we are going to put it in English and Spanish and audio. And we got some really cool plans for the Spanish community worldwide, because we have a passion and a connection to a lot of Spanish communities that I'll share on another podcast, that we're doing some really interesting things with children around the world. And so a part of the proceeds of our book is going to go to English and Spanish proceeds are going to go to a few places around the world to help young kids musically and athletically perform at high levels that really don't have anything. So we're excited about that as well.
Well, I thank you for sharing how this book changed you also, because I think it's powerful doing that. and I'm looking forward to reading it so that let's see what kind of impact it has on me. Maybe we can compare notes in the future too. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
And thank you, Chet, because you've added worth in my life, and that's why we live. We live to add worth in other people's lives, not just our own. But I can't pour out of an empty cup. I have to fill my cup up to pour in your cup and pour in their cup, and you got to do the same thing. So thanks for adding worth to me and to all of our listeners every day. So appreciate
Well,
that.
thank you also, because I do appreciate it. Working together.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Influence Today with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles. If you like the show, we would like you to share it. We would like you to hit 5 stars. We would like you to join us each week when we talk to Terry about his book and about some of the guests we'll have on. And we're dealing with a couple of issues: influence in spiritual stuff, influence in health, influence in business, and of course, influence in the personal life. Thanks again for listening. This has been Influence Today.